Premier League's back, so Manchester City, reigning, defending Premier League champions, thought it would be best for everyone if they just lost their first game straight away. Let's get rid of all this Invincibles nonsense. Let's get rid of, oh, can you go unbeaten this season? Let's nip that in the bud right now. City doing us a favour. It's already gone, yeah? They'll probably get knocked out of the League Cup really early on so we can forget all this quadruple talk as well. But no, seriously, Spurs beat Manchester City 1-0 in the Premier League. Nuno's first game as manager for Spurs. No Harry Kane for Spurs, but no problem for Spurs. Let's very quickly talk about the game, talk about the players, and a new feature. I don't know why I said that. A new game, I guess, for this season. Me and Mrs. Nobbins are going to be having a predictions versus throughout this whole season. So we're going to be playing a game based on predictions, and there'll be an overall winner at the end. No idea what the winner's going to win. Probably nothing, but pride or whatever. You guys can play along if you want to see how many points you get compared to the two of us. But I've stolen the title of the game from Tifo Football. The game, I don't think they invented the game, but they definitely made that title up. So I've stolen it from them. And the game is called Points Are Bad. Basically, the premise is you don't want points because points are bad. So if you predict a game to be 2-0 and it ends 2-0, you get 0 points. If you predict the game to be 3-0, then you were wrong by 1 goal. Therefore, you get a point. We'll get into that at the end of the video, but let's start with Manchester City against Spurs. And let's start, first of all, by saying that I thought Spurs deserved to win. Thought City were wasteful generally. I thought Spurs were dangerous on the counter-attack. And even without Harry Kane, it wasn't really an issue for Spurs because they were able to constantly exploit City's lacklustre performance and lacklustre midfield. In particular, rein it in a little bit because football fans are very fickle and very reactionary. This is a message primarily to overreacting City fans and also just overreacting rival fans. This is the first game. It's okay. City aren't getting relegated. This is not necessarily an indication for how the season's going to go. Let's not forget, last season Manchester City were 14 points behind the top spot in December, and they went on to win the league quite comfortably. This team has had barely any time together. The full squad's only been together for a couple of days, whereas Spurs have been training together for a few weeks now. So there's always going to be a sluggish start to the Premier League. And that's because City are very good, basically. It's because City play in 4 competitions. Like last season, they went very deep in 4 competitions. They obviously won the Premier League. They got to the final of the Champions League. They won the League Cup again to the final of that. And they got to the semi-final of the FA Cup. Lots of competitions. And then a lot of their players go on international duty in international tournaments. And we've just come off a COVID season. It's going to be a sluggish start. It's only natural and it's nothing to get panicked about. It was also good to see Kevin De Bruyne come off the bench, get some minutes after I think he's had a surgery recently because he was injured, so good to see him get some minutes. He looked okay, made a couple of mistakes, but he looked very good. Nevertheless, considering the circumstances. And it's also really nice to see Grealish have a good game for Man City. Was he great? No. Was he bad? No. Is he a flop? He's literally only played 1 full game, and he actually played quite well in that game. And he was also being either doubled up on or even tripled up on at times because he's such a threat. And what does that do? It creates space elsewhere. So obviously losing isn't great, but let's look at the actual wider context that I've just discussed. And it's actually not that bad. Let's not use this as a yardstick for the whole season. We've literally only played 1 game, it's fine. Most of Manchester City's play, their attacking play, came down the left-hand side, which isn't a surprise because Mendy is so attacking. You had Sterling there, you also had Grealish there more importantly, and as I alluded to before, he did have a very good game. But conversely, a lot of Spurs' attacking play came down their right side or Man City's left because of Mendy. I don't want this to just become it's all Mendy's fault, because it isn't all Mendy's fault, because the whole team in general was relatively poor. The midfield particularly just kept giving the ball away. Cancelo, he kept giving the ball away. Fran Torres was pretty lacklustre up front. Mahrez, who's been looking decent in pre-season, just didn't look it here. I thought Sterling and Grealish were fine. Fernandinho wasn't his usual self, so it is a wider issue. And also I thought both Ake and Diaz were probably at fault for the goal. Didn't really understand Diaz's positioning for the goal, but he played well overall, I think. But Mendy, there needs to be a bigger. This is more than just this game. This is seasons now. I've seen a good Mendy in maybe 8 games, maybe. Most of those were before his ACL injury, and he's not been the same player ever since. The player City bought from Monaco doesn't exist anymore. This is not a £50 million left back. Zinchenko's better than him at left back. Cancelo's better than him at left back. I'd honestly rather have Laporte and maybe even Ake over Mendy at left back. I keep trying to give him chances. He keeps failing me. I'm not saying this is totally on him. Like, I don't really know what he could have done for that goal, but it just doesn't help the situation. And I think the fact that he was substituted, I think like the 80th minute for another left back, that's not a good sign. City had more possession, a lot more. They had a lot more passes. They had a lot more, crosses, through balls. Spurs had more long balls, which you would understand being, relatively under cosh because City had more possession. But most important, the only stat that matters is the 1-0 on with a very good goal. Question marks over Akin Diaz's defending. But Spurs had 2 counter-attacks compared to City's 0, and that is the issue that Pep needs to iron out real quick. And there were issues throughout all of last season, Man City failing to deal with the counter-attack, particularly in midfield. This is the danger of Pep's style of play. This is also why Pep plays 2 inverted fullbacks in order to alleviate the pressure off the centre-halves who will be caught out if a good counter-attack occurs, and that's exactly what happened. Lucas, who's my man of the match, by the way, I think, even though Son scored the goal, did a lovely, perfect ball that basically just like bypassed all of City, and Spurs were just in from that point, and that has to stop. That has to stop right now. And I do think that will improve as these players, get less sluggish as they get more match fitness. And I do still think Fernandinho can do a huge role and a job for City. Just was a bit off the pace today. It wasn't awful by any means, but a lot of City's players were off the pace. And what this game also just confirmed to me was that Man City need a striker, especially in the first half. There were like 3 or maybe even 4 chances where City had to put the ball in the back of the net. They just had to. There was glaring one in my head was when Mahrez just like, so I don't even know what he did, but he went to shoot. It was basically an open net, and he somehow slipped and just went well over. And then Ferran Torres in the second half, he like side booted it. He should have just like toe bunged it in. Okay, he didn't have the best day today. I think that a striker, Harry Kane, is absolutely essential for City. I don't think they can replicate what they did last year. Don't think it can work 2 years in a row. Can't keep assuming that your midfielders are going to chip in with goals, because as Gundogan did last year, because if they don't, you're stuffed. Just so many instances where a ball was put in, or Grealish did a brilliant run, beat a man, he looks up, there's no one there. There's no one in the box for him to cross to. So Harry Kane has to be, and it is, the number 1 priority for City. Whether they will get their man this summer, I really don't think so. But that's not going to stop them from trying. I still maintain, if you saw my Premier League predictions video, I thought Man City would win even without Kane. I still think City win the Premier League title, but ultimately they do need a striker to improve. That's basically the only position City need to improve on. Just don't play Mendy at left back. And it's not the end of the world. Spurs deserve to win. Spurs actually beat City last season as well, let's not forget. Right, so that's the brief analysis of Spurs versus Man City. Let me know if you like these post-match analyses of... Analyses? Let me know if you like this format of immediate post-match analysis, and I can try to keep doing them as the season goes. If you like them, I'll keep doing them for you. And let's get into points are bad. So these are the match results from match week 1, and I'm just going to run through the scores, and I'll tell you what myself and Mrs. Nobbins put, and then we'll tally up the scores. And remember, points are bad. So Brentford 2, Arsenal 0. That was a mad game, by the way. I don't know what Arsenal were doing defensively there, really weak. I predicted 2-1 to Arsenal, so I get 3 points for that. Mrs. Nobbins predicted 2-0 to Brentford, so she gets no points. That's brilliant, brilliant stuff from her. Man United 5, Leeds 1. I predicted 2-1 to United. Mrs. Nobbins predicted 1-0 to United. I get 3 points, but Mrs. Nobbins gets 5 points. Leicester was 1-0. I said 2-0, so I get a point. Mrs. Nobbins said 2-1, 2 points. Chelsea Palace, I said 2-0, so I get 1 point. Mrs. Nobbins said 1-all, so she gets 3 points. Watford 3, Villa 2. I said 1-0 to Villa. Mrs. Nobbins said 3-1 to Villa, so we both did horrendous there. I get 4 points. Mrs. Nobbins 3 points, so she's actually beating me there. Oh gosh, that's bad, isn't it? Everton 3, Southampton 1. I said 1-all Southampton. Mrs. Nobbins said 1-0 Southampton. I get 2 points. Mrs. Nobbins gets 3 points. Burnley against Brighton. 2-1 to Brighton. I said 1-all. Mrs. Nobbins said 1-0 to Brighton. So I get a point. And Mrs. Nobbins gets 2 points. Norwich versus Liverpool. I predicted 3-0. Oh, sick. There you go. I get 0 points. Mrs. Nobbins said 2-0 Liverpool, so she gets 1 point. There you go. I get the right prediction sometimes. Newcastle West Ham was 4-2. I didn't even realise that was the score. 4-2 to West Ham. I said 1-0 West Ham. Mrs. Nobbins said 1-0 Newcastle. I get 5 points, and Mrs. Nobbins gets 5 points as well. And then finally, Spurs Man City. I said 2-0 to City. Mrs. Nobbins said 1-0 to City. It was, in fact, as we discussed, 1-0 to Spurs. So I get 3 points and Mrs. Nobbins gets 2 points. So the first round of points are bad. I'm on 22 points, Mrs. Nobbins 27. So I'm winning right now. Let me know if you want me to keep doing the match predictions each week, and I'm more than happy to do that for you guys, because hopefully it will be a fun game. And yeah, your boy's winning right now. Let's go. Hope you enjoyed the video, the quick match analysis, and then the first round of points are bad. If you did, let me know if you want me to keep doing these match analysis videos. Let me know if you want me to keep up with the points are bad game. And if you like the video at any point, then do feel free to like the video, because that really helps me out. And if you are new, make sure to subscribe. And if you aren't new, then tell your mates about this channel and get them to subscribe if they like football videos anyway. Until next time, guys, eat, skeet, delete, have a lovely day, and yeah,